Welcome back to Backstage Goss. Today we talk to Christina. We talk to her about her journey into ballet and the ups and downs of the industry. So, without further ado, let's go backstage.
Hi, I'm Christina. I am a classical ballet teacher and I've got a school called the Studio Arum in Newark-on-Trent, where I teach classical ballet to children of all ages and abilities. And I've been running that school now for just over 6 years.
Wow. I bet that's gone quick, isn't it?
Yeah. It has really gone, in a heartbeat. I can't believe it. I mean, obviously I've been teaching since 1998, but I moved to Newark 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then we built the studio up from there. Started with 2 students.
Really?
Yeah.
Just 2?
2 students, still working full time to support that. And just organically grew and grew. So,
well, welcome to Backstage Goss.
Thank you.
This is the channel. What we're going to do is we're going to find out about your journey.
Yeah.
We don't want celebrities. We want regular people that have had a dream, have come through, but those dreams have not always been happy.
No.
Right. What's yours? What's your story?
Wow, where do I begin? I have many, many stories. I started training when I was young, like most girls do. And when I was 16, I was told that I could stay on and do A-level, or if I didn't want to do that, then I had to decide what I wanted to do. So I decided that I wanted to go to ballet school. So I left home at 17. Because I was still classed as a minor, I had to live with a host family, which was difficult. But they were a beautiful family, actually.
Whereabouts were they living?
That was in Bedford. They're actually an American family. They've moved back to the States now, but still in touch with them all these years.
Serious?
Later. Yeah, all these years later, still in touch with them. And it was hard being away from home. In fact, my mum recalls me crying weekly and asking to go home. And she had a few choice words because it was privately funded. It was a private ballet school that wasn't, at the time, wasn't government funded or locally funded by the council. So my parents had to dig deep and pay for it. And they had to pay for my keep for the host family. That wasn't included. So it was hard being away from home. But mum and dad were like, no, you're staying.
Oh, really?
We've paid.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Good old family values.
Yeah.
Hey, girl.
This is what you wanted. This is the reality.
Yeah, fair enough, you know.
And that really shaped me because I did have to dig deep. I had to get on with it. I made some great friends. And that was really where I cut my teeth on the very beginning of being a student away from home and all those things that they don't tell you about, how to live away from home. And I think that's really important that students who are thinking of going away to train vocationally need to think about the realistic side of things rather than just the dream. They've got to think about where are they going to live, how are they going to support themselves. I was lucky, my parents supported me, and then when I finished that school and I auditioned for London Studio Centre, which was in the big smoke, I was 18 and I was living on my own because
How
I
did you
was
find
an
it?
adult.
How did you find that living on your own?
Terrifying.
Oh, really?
Really terrifying. I thought I had life skills.
Ha! You see, back in the day, it was all different for us, wasn't it? Life skills, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my parents had taught me, the basics,
Yeah.
But I didn't know how to do a shop. I didn't know what to buy. I can honestly say for the first 3 years of my training, I think I lived on baked beans and quiche Lorraine.
It's such a common food element. Quiche and beans. It's true though, isn't it?
Yeah, because I could divide it. I used to go to the shop, buy a couple of quiches, divide them up and freeze them, and Mum would say, oh, you can just take a quarter out, defrost it, and then just have it with some beans, and that will keep you going. Because I couldn't cook, and I'd never learnt to cook, because I'm 53 and I still can't cook.
So is it a good idea then? Kids going forward now to have some form of cooking behind them.
Oh, 100%. I mean, food today is expensive. I mean, it probably was then, if you're talking about, how much things cost back then in line with wages. But you've got to remember that I was 18. I lived in a flat with 3 other girls. So there was 4 of us in a 2-bedroom flat. So there was 2 in one bedroom, 2 in the other. And we had to share that rent, share the bills. We didn't get any support, any student support for that. So we had to work. And so you're buying all the basic food because it's the cheapest. But if you can cook, and that you could maybe buy in bulk and cook food and freeze it, then that's beneficial. I didn't have that skill. And so I probably paid over the odds for food that was already prepared. But I don't know whether students have a lot of takeaways. I know that students don't have a lot of money, but takeaway food is quite expensive as well. It's not particularly good for you.
Yeah.
But it was definitely something that I wish now, back then, I wish that I could have at least, even if it was just spaghetti bolognese and things like that you could freeze.
Right.
But
see, I mean, you mentioned a couple of foods there, but as a ballerina, what on earth do you guys eat?
I think it's a bit of a myth that people think that ballerinas don't eat, and actually they eat all the time because they have to, because they're athletes. So they eat a high protein diet. If they're touring, then they will probably have quite a bit of carby food to keep the machine running, because that's what they are.
Yeah.
But it wasn't always like that. And the way that the way that they work today with the ballerinas and the ballet dancers at the vocational schools, and the dietitians and the research that's gone into it is fairly new. It wasn't like that when I was training.
Oh, okay.
And if you were asking me when I was 18, what were people eating then? What were you all eating as dancers? It was a very, very different story. Because you were back then told that you were fat.
Serious?
Yes, I was told on multiple times that I was too fat. And that then spirals. I think if you're young, you're living away from home, and then you're told that you're fat. I remember being rejected from an audition because they weighed me at the end of the audition and told me I was too fat.
Wow.
And I was 18.
You're not getting away with that nowadays, though, are you?
You're not allowed to. I mean, pretty sure it doesn't happen anymore. I think they've had to learn over the years and learn by their own mistakes. And it's about building athletes. So that's certainly what is my message to my students, is you eat well, you fuel your body, you are building your muscles to become an athlete, because that's what ballet dancers are. They are as strong as athletes. And I don't think that's always recognised, because you see a beautiful girl who looks wafer thin in a tutu and looks, just this idealistic ballerina. But actually, if you strip that away and look at her routine of what she does, you'll find that she's in the gym. Then she's at maybe Pilates, or, she's got some sort of reformer bed, and they're working their muscles like any athlete would. The difference is that aesthetically, they have to also have that look on stage that that people want to see.
Right.
And I think that's changing as well.
Yeah.
I'll just pause there whilst it... Oh, we're done. I forgot about that.
I like that. yeah. There's a bit of reality in there. Just let me know how long we've got. Yeah, no, beautiful. Yeah, right. So take us through your journey at the school then. Yeah. Well, once you finished and you went on from 18. Yeah. From 18 till when? How long was you training for?
Okay, so I finished my training at London Studio Centre. That's where I got my dance degree, and then that was it. You're on your own. If you were lucky enough to have an agent, fantastic. What happened back then that doesn't happen so much now is that you would have an agent would work on your behalf. So if you wanted a job interview for, I don't know, a show that's coming to the West End, your agent would get you a booking for that. And so then you didn't have to stand in line. I didn't have an agent, couldn't afford one, because I just worked at a theatre like most students did. I worked.
What was you doing at the theatre?
I worked at Starlight Express for 3 years. I was one of their promotional girls. So
really?
I sort of went, over the 3 years that I was there, I went from sort of usherette, showing people to their seat. Then I went to bar, started doing the bar drinks in the interval, and then was approached by the team to say, would you come on board as one of the girls that would go out and do the marketing? So it was me and a friend of mine, and we had an absolute ball because they just gave us the costumes, and the skates, and they're like, you know, who do you want to be today? So it was brilliant. You know, I mean, we went out and we went to all the big places where they were promoting Starlight Express at the time, and me and my friend would be in the costume and we'd be skating up and down and handing out leaflets like you did back then. You know, you didn't have social media, did you? You know, no. I'm talking 1991, 92.
Yeah, good 30 odd years ago.
Yeah, so we didn't have social media. You couldn't just put an ad online. It didn't work like that. We didn't have computers. So that was a blast. We had an absolute blast doing that. But no, I couldn't afford an agent, and many of us couldn't. And
so sorry to interrupt, did that actually restrict you then? By not having an agent? Because, I mean, way back in the day, you know, with the equity and everything else, if you weren't in equity, you had an awful time trying to get a job.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so the way that equity worked back then, couldn't tell you how it works now, but the way that equity worked back then was you had to do so many hours before you could get your equity card. So you were kind of in a vicious circle because you were up against people at an audition who already was an equity member, and then there's just straight out of college and need the experience, and you just turned up and you just hoped that one day somebody would give you the job, and it was really tough because you had to get those hours in and you had to produce those hours before they would allow you to become an equity member. When you were trying to book a job, again, very different to how you book a job today, is you waited. You went on a day. I think the stage came out once a week.
The stage, oh my gosh, you are really taking me back. Yeah, of course. Hey, can you believe that? You wouldn't believe it. It's the stage. Call you back. Yeah, won't be long. Can't believe that. It was the stage. Yeah, go on, carry on.
So, me and my friends, so there was me and my girlfriends that all lived together. So whatever day it was that the stage used to come out, we'd go down to the local newsagents, we'd get the stage, we'd go to the coffee shop, we'd buy a coffee, and we'd sit there with our pen, you know, and we would just be circling jobs. Oh, fancy that, fancy that, fancy that. And you literally just turned up.
Mental, wasn't it?
And you waited, and you waited, and you would get to, I remember this one occasion. It was an audition for Les Mis, and it was an open audition. That's what they used to call them. Open audition that meant practically anybody could go to it. But they didn't say, they just said open audition, Les Mis, but they didn't say what they were looking for. They didn't say whether it was for a lead role or whether it was ensemble. Sometimes they didn't. Sometimes they would be specific and say, we're only looking for this.
Right.
Again, something else that's changed. They used to be able to say, we're looking for a female that's 19 to 25, blonde hair. They can't say those things anymore.
Right, right.
That's all changed. But when you had these big open auditions, so I went along with my friend and we waited in the queue, and the queue went all the way around the theatre and back again, made a complete circle.
Wow.
And it was just full of girls with their songbook, folk headshot, and their bag made with their ballet shoes or whatever they'd told you to bring with you. And you sat and you waited. And on this particular occasion, we'd been there all day and we were getting a bit hungry and we're still not even near how long are we going to wait now? We've been here about 5 hours.
Oh, gosh.
And one of the casting directors came out of the theatre, which never happens.
Right.
And he came out and I remember he shouted, "Can I have your attention, please, everybody? Can I have some quiet, please?" And everybody sort of stopped and thought, "Oh, what's going on?" And he said, "Just to let you know, we've found what we're looking for, so you can leave. Thank you very much."
Oh, no.
And we all sort of looked at each other. What? I'm sorry, you found what you're looking for and we can go? Didn't even get to the front of the line. So that was another kind of 5 hours out of my life. Okay, we'll go home now. Turned out, actually, they were looking for Eponine. They were looking for one person.
Oh,
but
right.
we didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
And also what happened a lot is a lot of those auditions went to people who had got an agent. So you're up against those people that have had a private audition.
So you're basically talking union and non-union, aren't you?
Yeah.
And way back then, it was union, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. So we're all stood there 5 hours of our life and, they've probably had somebody come in with a private audition maybe the day before or something or earlier that day or later that day, whatever, and you just don't know what you're up against, and it's so hard and it's soul destroying. That was an example that never happened again in my time, and like I said, never come across that before, where somebody literally just stopped it halfway through and was like, "Yeah, you can go, we're done."
Goodness.
I also remember going to an audition for Sound of Music, and me and my friend, we rocked up. We always went together so that we could go to the loo and keep our place in line. So we used to.
Oh, right, that was clever. Yeah.
And we turned up, and as we were approaching the theatre, because you always knew which theatre it was, because there was kids there that had been camping out since the night before, wanted to be right at the front of the queue. And I remember us approaching the theatre, and I turned to my mate Shelley and I said to her, "Were we supposed to be coming in costume? Did it say that in the ad? I don't remember." She's like, "No, did we miss something?" I have never seen so many plaits and, little dresses with little aprons and I was thinking, what's going on here? But people would go to that extreme to actually try and embody the character and go, "Oh, well, it's Sound of Music, let's go dressed as a character from Sound of Music and maybe I'll get the job." And again, we did get into that audition and we got onto the stage, and I remember thinking, this is it. I'm actually in front of them. I'm on the stage. I've made it. I'm in front of them. So what happens now in the next 2 minutes is really important.
Yeah, right.
Really, really important. So gave my music to the pianist, because again, back then we used to have a real pianist at auditions. You used to give him you used to have to go and get it printed. You know, you'd go and get sheet music.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, yeah.
And then you'd hand it to them, and maybe you didn't want to start at the beginning. You'd say, I'll start from that bar, you know. And then you'd have to tell them what tempo you wanted and stuff like that, you know, stuff that probably doesn't even happen anymore. And I remember standing at the front and centre and giving him the nod, yeah, I'm ready. And got in, singing my song and everything. And then, thank you. And you're never really sure what to do. Like, do I go now, or do you want to ask me some questions? And then, but they're constantly writing. So I was just, okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. What happens? You know.
Yeah, right.
What am I doing? So you go and get your music, and then you go off stage, and then somebody backstage will say to you, if they want you, they'll let you know. And that's it. And you just think, I waited like 6-7 hours. I sang a bit,
yeah.
You know, just getting into it. And I appreciate they had all those, you know, kids to get through.
Hundreds of
you know, literally like around the theatre. But that is soul destroying.
Right.
And that makes you question your life choices. It
really that bad?
Yeah, it really does.
Right.
Because when you keep doing it and you keep getting thank you, we'll be in touch, or not even we'll be in touch, just thank you, it is really upsetting. I went to an audition at Danceworks, and it was for a cruise liner, and I remember turning up and looking into the studio had windows, so you could see the batches as they were auditioning them. And this girl who was auditioning turned to me and she said, "Why are you auditioning?" And I said, "What do you mean, why am I auditioning?" She said, "You know that they will only ever take blondes, and you're brown, you've got brown hair." I said, "What do you mean they only take blondes?" She said, "I've worked for this cruise liner before, trust me, they only take blondes."
Oh my gosh.
I mean, obviously that wasn't in the advert. And so I just thought, well, why am I here then? Like, I mean, I still did it. I still went, I thought, no, maybe she's wrong. Maybe I can wear a wig, you know. But yeah, I didn't book the job.
Wow.
That's all changed now, thank goodness.
Yeah, right.
Because people have learned that, you know, you just can't do that.
Well, they've got to be far more descriptive, haven't they? With what, you know, what they're looking for? Yeah,
I think they have to be... I wouldn't want to write an advert. I think nowadays they have to sort of tiptoe through so many things that...
It's a minefield, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they've just got to be really clever with their language.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally don't think there's anything wrong if you're asking for something in particular. I think it's totally wrong that cruise liner were only taking blondes.
Right.
But that obviously doesn't happen anymore. But that was a period of time when they could get away with it.
That was the time, wasn't it?
It was the time.
It was the era. You know, I mean, there's a lot of things, like you say, been learned over the years.
Yes.
and I think they're still learning.
They are still learning. And they will still make mistakes and they'll still upset somebody. But I think the kids today that are going into vocational training, I think if I could say anything to them, I would just say, don't take anything personally. Don't get hung up and caught up with the fact that somebody may have said something to you that you didn't like or you didn't agree with, because if you take it personally, you're not going to survive. You know, I was 17 and told that I was too fat to be a ballet dancer.
It's incredible, isn't it?
You know,
What did you do when you heard those words, fat? How did that actually make you feel?
Well, after I'd finished crying, and and told my parents that clearly I was never going to be good enough because I was too fat. Me and my parents were absolutely horrified. You know, this was a time when I was escorted to auditions because I was young, I didn't live in London.
Right.
If there was something coming up that I wanted to audition for, my parents would take me. I just was lucky that I had parents that were great like that. But they were sitting in reception whilst the audition's going on, waiting for me. They've booked some B&B that we've all had to stay in one room to save money. You know, I've been to the audition and then I've come out, I'm in floods of tears. My parents are saying, what's going on? What's happening? And the first thing they want to do is, right, come on, let's go and get something to eat. And
You've just been told you're
I've just been told I'm fat. So, no thanks, Mum. I'm going to miss, if you don't mind.
I'll eat the straw.
Yeah, but actually what happened was when I got to London Studio Centre and I was living away from home and I got into my groove of being away from home, I'd got my network of friends and was really embedded into that way of life. I was exposed to a lot of things that I had never been exposed to before. I say that I feel lucky because of the friendship group that I had, but I was exposed to girls vomiting, girls eating tissue paper, girls handing out laxatives,
Oh my gosh.
to keep the weight down.
Right.
I was 18 and one girl said to me, if you don't want to take laxatives and you don't want to eat paper for lunch, the best way to keep your weight down is to start smoking and drink black coffee.
Wow.
And I said to her, why, does that work then? I was so naive.
Right.
Does that work then? Yeah, that's what we all do. So I started smoking, started drinking black coffee, and I kept the weight off.
Yeah, right.
And I got down to a really tiny size, and I was probably like the most unhealthiest I've ever been. If somebody was to take my stats or whatever, they would say, you might want to have a meal. But again, I was naive, I was away from home and I was exposed to all of that. I was exposed to things that people did in desperate situations.
Right.
But I was also around people who had also been told that they were too fat. So it was a generational thing because, again, I just don't think people are being told that anymore. Thank goodness people are not being told that anymore. But there will still be something that somebody is told, and my advice would be, do not take anything personally. Learn from it or disregard it.
Right.
If somebody had said to me, you're not fat, okay, so that's a comment you can disregard and move forward. If somebody at an audition said to me, your vocals aren't as strong as they could be, take that on board and go and do something about it.
Right.
Yeah, there's a difference there. Sometimes people give you feedback that you can take and run with and learn from it, and there are some things that you've just got to disregard.
Yeah.
So, I'm pleased in some ways that it has changed now from back then. But that was my experience. I was living in those times and they were the things that we thought were normal.
Yeah. Can you remember your first gig?
First gig. The first jobs that I got professionally were singing. So I didn't go into the dancing first. I went into, it was because I could easily get singing gigs. So that's what I went into.
Oh, right.
And I managed to pick up good money from it. So I do remember doing a lot of gigs all around London, and, you know, had a really good time, met some really good people, made some really good contacts. But when it came to the dancing side of things, unfortunately, I had been, the being told I was fat, it was being carried with me, and I didn't realise it was being carried with me.
Oh dear.
So it was something that triggered much later. So I finished all of my training, and whilst I was smoking and drinking black coffee, I was still fairly young and active, and I was still eating, but just wasn't eating as much as maybe I should have been. It was after I got quite a few rejections, obviously, like we spoke about earlier, and then I started to notice that things in my life were changing, and I couldn't control it. I couldn't get the jobs that I wanted. I didn't particularly want to be just a singer. Obviously, I wanted to be a dancer. That's what I trained to be. But I had spent nearly 2 years just auditioning.
Dear me.
For, you know, one after the other. You know, you name it. West End shows, cruise liners, you know. I even did a couple of like fringe auditions, you know, stuff that's like where you've got to just don't get paid a great deal of money, but it's exposure sort of thing. And I did do quite a lot of, you know, sort of like pantomime work and stuff like that. But I wanted the real stuff, you know, I wanted the West End stuff. I wanted to be, you know, dancing, doing those things. And after 2 years of living with, you know, hand to mouth, waitressing, you know, the usual stuff that most students
again,
do.
you mentioned the usual stuff. You know, that's exactly what happened, wasn't it?
And it doesn't prepare you, I don't think, to go out into the world. I think, you know, vocational schools are fantastic at training, absolutely fantastic. But when it comes back to what happens when we open the door and you're done and you're on your own, it's hard, it's frightening, and the knockbacks they're brutal.
Yeah. What was the worst knockback you ever got?
Probably being told I was too fat to ever be a professional dancer. And that's what eventually led to my anorexia. So, yeah. And, yeah, it nearly killed me. It was a really hard time in my life. And it was a dark, dark time. And I wouldn't want anybody to go there. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. No. Because it's really hard to get out of the black hole.
How did you get out of that black hole?
My daughter.
Oh, really?
My daughter. I couldn't care for her, if I'm honest. I collapsed every day.
Oh.
She was really young.
Yeah.
And a 4-year-old shouldn't need to know that picking up the phone and pressing the number 2 will get to Nanny's house. She shouldn't know that at 4.
Dear me.
But she did.
Thankfully, yeah.
And if I collapsed at home, she'd pick up the phone and press number 2. My mum would come round, pick me up. And so it went on and on and on. And I was so thin. And I just couldn't see it. And my parents were worried about me, obviously. My brother was worried about me. And the final straw came when I ended up in hospital again for the umpteenth time. And I'd been in and out of hospital in a very quick succession. And the nurse that had seen me was there's this nurse I saw again, and he came and sat beside me, and he said to me, "You were only in here a few weeks ago. Why are you back again? I've been looking at your records and this has to stop." And I said to him, "I know, but I don't know how to stop it. I literally don't know how to stop it." I was scared, but at the same time couldn't bear to put any food in my mouth either. And he said to me, and talk about brutal, he said to me, "If I see you in here again, I'm going to phone social services." And something inside me snapped.
Yeah, I'll bet.
And I just woke up. And he said, they will take her away. He said, and then I'm going to put you in a halfway house. And that's where they tube feed you until you're back to normal weight.
Oh my gosh.
He said, and I'll do it. And I was literally terrified that they would take my little girl away. So I went home and I thought, where do I start? Because I still couldn't put any food in my mouth.
So you had no other support?
I had my mum and dad, right, obviously, my family, but they were just saying the same thing. Eat. It's not that simple to just eat. Just eat. What do you want? I'll buy you anything you want. I'll make you your favourite food. Just eat it. I can't eat it. I lived on tomatoes. I can't eat tomatoes now.
Really?
Mm.
Oh.
Lived on tomatoes. And I had a friend, I still have a friend. Her name is Sian, and we've known each other since we were born. And she came over one day because she was really worried about me, and I told her. And she said to me, "Right, we're doing this. They will not take your little girl. Trust me." And she used to come to my house after work every day. And she'd say, "Right, today we're having some toast." And it started with like a triangle. Eat it and I will eat it. And everything I ate, she ate. And then it went to half a slice of toast, a whole slice of toast, and then maybe a spoon of beans, and so on and so on.
Right.
Years later, she told me she used to go home and have her dinner.
She was like, you just knew that.
She was like, "Oh, I was so hungry,"
yeah.
She said. And then she started making me proper food. And then she'd say to me, "Right, today I'm going to make you, I don't know, a chicken breast with some leeks and like some peas." I mean, the plate of food was less than my daughter was eating at 4, but right. I was eating it. And she saved my life.
Bless her.
Because she refused to give up until I got to the place where I was like, okay, actually, yeah, I can do this. Yeah. I can actually eat, and I can buy food and make food.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, there were occasions when, yes, I would probably have like a little relapse and she'd have to build me up again. But I never went back into hospital. I never saw that nurse again.
Wow.
And I built myself up to, a good weight. Right. That I was able to maintain.
What do you call a good weight? What was it?
Well, when I was at my lowest, I was just over 6 stone. That was my lowest that I'd got to, and I'm 5'5", so just over, like, I was about 6 stone 4. So that was my lowest. My mum actually took some photographs of me, which I really struggle to look at now.
Yeah, I'll bet.
But she was showing them to me at the time, and I was like, well, couldn't see it. You can't see it at the time in the mirror, and now I can't even look at those photographs. And I got up to, I would say I was anywhere between sort of like 7.5 to, maybe 7 stone 10. And then I stopped, and I was like, I feel comfortable at this weight. Yes, I was still underweight at 7 stone 10. Right. I was still underweight. But over time, I gradually started to feel more like myself again, and started getting slowly better, and was doing more outdoor stuff, and just trying to get back to health. And
I think what was interesting to me was you made some comments earlier, was that you couldn't get the job, so you took any job within a theatre. Why? Was it just to be part of the actual industry?
I actually have a story for you on that. A lot of students work at theatres whilst they're training because theatres in London usually employ that's who they're looking for. It's good for business.
Right.
They love musical theatre kids that go in and sell the programmes and sell the popcorn, because you'll find that they're going to enthuse about it, even though they're working for front of house or whatever. But I do have a story. So when I worked at Starlight Express, I was there for 3 years. And like I said to you, had a whole host of jobs, okay? And I auditioned for booth singer, because what you might not know about Starlight Express is that although they are singing on stage, they have booth singers that were under the stage, which is where the pit was, the orchestra pit. And the reason that they have booth singers was because it was a very physically demanding show on roller skates. And so for the big numbers, they used to turn the mics down and bring the booth singers up, so that you couldn't hear the panting and everything over the microphones. And I auditioned for booth singer because they were looking for a booth singer, and I thought this could be my first job. I work here, they know me. And this is a massive regret of mine. When you're just so young, and honestly, every time I think about it, I just want to really punch myself. They gave me the job and I was like, yes, finally, I've got my first professional job. I'm so excited, because I'd worked there for so long. I knew that score inside out and back to front.
Right, yeah.
I knew the routines inside out and back to front. And so they gave me the job and I was like, I'm in, great. And then he just happened to say, and it was just a fleeting comment that he just happened to say was, you do read music, right? Now, the correct answer was, absolutely. Of course I read music.
Oh, no.
I'm young. I'm eager. I'm naive. I can't read music.
Oh.
So I just said to him, no, I don't read music. I said, however, I know this score so well because obviously I've worked for, at that point, I think I'd been at Starlight for about 2 years by then. So I was like in my final year at studios. So he said, oh, that's going to be a problem. He said, the thing is, if we're making notes on the score and it's very slightly different, you need to be able to read it. And I said to him, but I sing by ear. So you just got to tell me the new note, if there is one, and I'll pick it up. It's not a problem. And he said, no, I'm sorry, you've got to be able to read music.
Oh.
Shot myself in the foot.
What a kick in the teeth that one is.
Honestly, I was so cross with myself that I couldn't even cry. I was just so cross. I almost wanted to just go back and say, joking, got you, I can read music. Of course I can read music. Maybe if I was a bit older and had a bit more confidence.
Yeah.
But so I stuffed that up. But they were always auditioning for the show itself, because the contracts weren't very long, because like I said, it is so physically demanding. So they would have their contracts. Sometimes they would renew them and sometimes they wouldn't. And so being in the know, working at the theatre, I always knew when the auditions were coming up. And I went along to every single audition, borrowed a pair of skates off somebody in the show, because I literally knew everybody. I knew them backstage, I knew all the cast. We all used to go drinking together, we're all really good friends. So I used to borrow a pair of skates to go to the audition. But unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because it did go against me, I knew the choreographer. And that at the time I thought I would be in because everybody knows me and...
Right.
You know.
That's backfired, isn't it?
Massively. So when I didn't get it the first time, I thought, it's the first time I've done it, you know, fair enough. But the thing is, when you're in an audition and the choreographer's going through the dance routine that they're going to teach you and you already know it, you're already winning because oh yeah, that move comes next, yeah, I know. You know, because I've watched it. They used to do 8 shows a week. I used to sit and watch it.
Wow.
So I knew it. But when I didn't get it the second time, I went and asked for feedback. And she said, we don't give feedback. We're not giving feedback. And I was like, okay, fine. So when I auditioned the third time and I still didn't get it, I was annoyed. I was like, right, what's going on? So I said to her, I know you don't give feedback. This is the third time now. I know this show inside out. Why am I not getting it? Why am I not getting the gig? Like, tell me, what's going on? And she said, we don't employ front of house staff.
Slap!
Yeah. And I said to her, but you know that I'm a professional vocational school and I'm in my last year. And she said, I know. I said, and the girl that's in the cast at the moment, she's come from, I don't know where I don't know. Other schools are available. But she had been in the show and she was coming up for end of contract and they weren't renewing it. And it transpired that she worked front of house at Starlight and they took her on at the audition and...
Double standards.
It didn't, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there. I can't comment on that because I don't know. All you know is what people hearsay, what people tell you.
Yeah.
You don't know how true it is. But that was the reason that she was giving me. And that was what I had to take away was, oh, okay, so maybe if I didn't work for Starlight, didn't know any of you and I came in completely cold to the audition, then maybe things would have been different. But again, we're talking a different time. I don't think that happens. I don't know if it still happens.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know really how people book jobs now. I know that there are things like they do reels now and they send in like an audition reel, which is taking a lot of pressure off the students now.
Right.
Whereas we didn't have that luxury where you can delete, do it again, delete, do it again. You know, you're in front of them. So
with your school, let's look at that for a moment.
Yeah.
Because you've now got your own dance school.
I have.
And how long has it been?
This one's been 6 years. I have obviously had schools in the past when I lived in other places.
Yeah. So when you set your schools up and everything else, did you think about following a trend? You knew what the issues were, in the industry, the downfalls and everything else. Did you try and make it easier or better for your students? You know what I mean? Of knowledge, knowing, going into that industry.
What, you mean the kids that have left me to go into it?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I've helped choreograph audition pieces for them, and yeah, I've sat them down and I've talked about the things that you don't get told as much, which is how to live, how to cope being away from your family, how that will impact your mental health.
See, now there's a big thing today, isn't it? The mental health side of things.
It's massive.
Yeah.
It is massive.
How do you manage that? How, with the students?
I think you've got to take it individually. I don't think mental health is a blanket
it's not.
Response. It's something that you have to look at each student individually, and you have to guide them in a way that you know them, because you know your students, so you know them and you know what their triggers will be, and sometimes you have to accept that student might not go on and do what you would like them to do, because they might not be in a place where they can deal with it. And I think that's very different now, because when I was looking to audition when I was 17, and obviously I went off to that private ballet school that I talked about before, so I was there for a year and then went on to London Studio Centre. I actually went to Central Ballet School and got accepted at Central Ballet, and they said, we'd love to take her, we'll take her if she wants to come, that's fine. But at the time, Central Ballet School was just Central Ballet School, and over a period of time I'd started to enjoy other things, and they said, we know that she likes to sing and she wouldn't get any of that here, so we wouldn't want to sort of clip her wings if she wanted to go somewhere else. And
so that would be more down the musical theatre route.
Yeah, so I had a choice, and my parents said you can either go to Central Ballet School because they offered you a position, like offered you a place, or you can go to London Studio Centre because they've also offered you a place. But London Studio Centre is MT, and at the time, Central Ballet School was Central Ballet School.
Right.
And Mum said to me, you know, if you really, really enjoyed the singing aspect and things like that, you won't get that opportunity. And we can really only afford to do this once, you know.
Yeah, right.
So I wasn't 100% sure if going to just pure ballet, you've got to remember the comments that I'd had about being too fat.
Right.
And so I opted to go to London Studio Centre where it was MT. So we did still have ballet. We still did ballet. It was compulsory actually, which was good for me because I loved ballet. But it gave me opportunities to open into other avenues. And Central Ballet School has changed its name now, hasn't it? It's not Central Ballet School because now they offer a musical theatre course, but they didn't back then. And so you have to look at what that your student wants to do. And I might think, well, they would be better off going to London and just going to one of the really big, you know, schools that I know about, because I know there's a lot of new ones, but I know all of the ones that I certainly was, you know, auditioning for. And one of my students that was going training to go off and audition, she said to me, no, I want to live in London. And I said, why not? She said, I don't want to be that far away from home. And I knew deep down it's what she needed. And I told her, I promise you it's what this will be the best thing for you. And she said, I can't. What I didn't take into consideration was actually if she had have gone, if that had impacted her mental health to the point where she was so stressed by being so far away that she couldn't then put in 100% at school because she'd be stressed because she's living on her anxiety because she's wanting to be nearer to home and she hasn't got any new friends yet. And, you know, I remember those things.
Tough, isn't it?
Yeah. So she did go on and she did go onto a vocational course. She just did it nearer to home. So it did work out for her in the end. And, you know, she went on to do that. But I still would have wanted her to go somewhere else.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's not my decision. I can only advise. Yeah. And what wasn't right for her might be right for the next student because the next student might have a completely different outlook. Right, and they might say, I only want to go to the big smoke. I only want to be at one of these really big schools that, you know, everyone knows about.
Yeah.
And you have to just take it case by case, I think.
All right, well, let me ask you this. This is your chance now, yeah?
Yeah.
We're just going to talk very quickly about your school. Yeah?
Yes.
Let's say I've got a daughter.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really interested in MT, ballet and everything else. Yeah. What are they going to get if they come to you? What can you offer them?
Okay, that's a good question, isn't it? It's a nice, simple question. Because I only teach classical ballet. I don't teach anything else. And I just want to touch briefly on something that you mentioned earlier, and we didn't really go there, so this ties in quite nicely. When I first started my school 6 years ago, I offered everything. So I offered tap, ballet, jazz. I didn't offer like singing and drama because I'm not qualified to do those things. So I just offered those. And because I was trying to build and establish, that's what I was doing, because that's what I thought I had to do. Anyway, when I did start to get on a bit of a even ground, I wasn't happy. I was really not happy. I didn't enjoy my job. I didn't want to go to work. I used to dread certain nights of the week because I was like, oh, we don't teach that class tonight. And I found this lady online, brilliant lady. She had a very successful business, dance school business and everything. So I spoke to her and she said, you need to just be true to yourself, because you need to be at work every day. So you need to enjoy what you do, and you need to be brave enough to do what you want to do. And I thought she's right, because if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. So at that point, I thought, that's it. So I stopped all the classes and said, I'm going in a different direction. It's not going to be for everybody, but actually, I only want to be a classical ballet teacher because that is my bread and butter. That is what I know. That is what I've trained in. I've been an RAD teacher since 1998. I'm now affiliated to the Royal Ballet School as well. And it's what makes my day a happy day, because I live and breathe ballet and it just brings me joy. And it was a massive risk. You live locally. Yeah. You know this is a really, really small town. Mm-hmm. And there is lots of other schools about, you know, that offer the triple threat. And I don't. But it was one that I was willing to take. So I just ploughed into it. And I did lose a couple of students. I didn't lose as many as I thought I would. And I also decided that I didn't want to teach adults anymore either, because that also wasn't something that brought me any joy. My heart lives solely in teaching children who want to do ballet for a job. And that is what your child would get if they come to me. Now, that's not to say, you could say to me, yeah, but my daughter's only 7. She doesn't know that she wants to be a professional ballerina. How can she know? She's 7. And that's when I say to parents, but that's the beauty of it, because even at 7, she's going to get the best training. She's going to know about her body, because I don't just teach ballet, I teach anatomy. So they know their muscle groups, they know how they work, they know where to find them. I teach posture, all those things. Doesn't matter if she goes off to be cabin crew for BA. She'll walk taller than everybody else. She'll have a beautiful posture. And I think more than anything, ballet in particular, it gives children boundaries. It teaches them like values. It teaches them discipline. You know, a child is not allowed to turn up to ballet with their hair down. Their hair has to be in a bun. It's discipline. You know, it's what's needed. And by sticking to my guns and being brave enough to say, nope, I'm just a classical ballet teacher now. That's all you're getting from me. But it means that now I can dedicate all of my time to that, and I'm not diluting myself. So all of my students now are getting a much deeper understanding. And it's great because they learn about all the ballets, they learn about characters, you know, we sometimes dress up as, like, when it comes around to Christmas, we do the Nutcracker, and they can dress up as Clara or the mice or whatever they want to be. So they're learning about that, and they don't realise that they're learning those stories about, you know, the classical ballets. And we talk about the composers, we talk about musical timing. So they get in all of that, a wealth of that. Yeah, they maybe out of a group of 10, maybe only one of them's going to go on vacation leave, but they've all learned, all 10 of them have learned so much more than they would have done if they didn't come. So,
well, I've got to be honest with you, I wish I'd have had my time again, because now you've explained it, I would have done it.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, genuinely. Well, look, I mean, we've reached the end of our time. Thank you so much for just letting us into your world and giving us your journey and everything else. I wish you all the success with your school.
Thank you so much.
But for now, see you later.
See you later.
Well, that's another episode of Backstage Goss. There is no way I would want to have been a ballerina way back then. Cigarettes, coffee as a diet, toilet paper, beans and quiche. Please, if you've got any stories like this and you'd like to be featured on Backstage Goss, drop me a line. In the next episode, we meet Samantha Schumer, who tells us about her lucky break and how she ended up in Wicked the film.